Fawzi, I wonder if you could talk a little bit about your background, how you became a conductor, and your early study of music, whatever you'd like to say about that.
Sure. So I started music very early on. About, I want to say 6 years old is when I started picking up the violin, and I loved it. I mean, my parents had no problem getting me to practice because I really enjoyed the instrument. And then when went to elementary school, I had an incredible teacher, and she knew that I loved the instrument so much that she would push me almost even a little bit harder than some of her other students. And she would give me really a lot of hard material, and because she knew that I wanted it, she knew that I needed it. So I really credit her for what she did for me. But when I went to high school, I think that was the first moment when I really realized that music was going to be a big part of my life. It's funny because at that time we didn't have Amazon, right? We didn't have the internet. You couldn't just put something on a shopping cart and get it the next day. So what I would do, and we would be using compact discs, which I know we still use now, I guess to a certain extent. But I would actually listen to recordings, like for example, Beethoven 9, I would listen to it over and over again, my CD. And what I would do is I would take a blank sheet of staff paper and I would listen to the recording over and over again and really notate all of the notes on a piece of staff paper because all I wanted to do was take my violin and just play along with the recording and imagine that I was part of the orchestra and Von Karajan conducting. I mean, I did the same thing with John Williams. I mean, who wouldn't want to play Star Wars, right? So I would listen to Star Wars over and over again and write it down and play along with that. And again, John Williams conducting. So it's that moment that I realized that music had to be a part of my life. And so I wasn't at the point yet that I realized that I was going to dedicate my life to music, but I knew that music had to be a part of my life. So that's kind of how music started off with me. As far as conducting, there's many layers to that, I have to say. Again, it takes me back, first off, when the seed was planted was in high school. Again, as I mentioned before, I was writing down all this music and playing along with recordings. But it got to a point where I wanted to write music on my own. So I actually wrote in high school, gosh, I still remember it, a string orchestra piece for all sections of the string orchestra, violins, violas, cellos, basses. And I spent weeks on this, Todd. And I went to my orchestra conductor and I said, could you please, very nervous I was, and could you please take a look at this? He came back to me days later and he said, well, I looked at your piece and we're going to program it in the next concert. And I said, oh my goodness, great. And he said, and you're going to conduct it. And I was speechless, but grateful, of course. And so there I was, 16 years old, in my next concert at our next concert, and I was conducting for the first time. I beefed up the piece a little bit. It was for string orchestra and timpani because I wanted to add timpani, and sure enough, that was it. And we played it for our high school audience, and it never left me after that. But
How did it go?
oh, it was great. I put so much energy into it. I didn't sleep for I think 2 nights. I was a nervous wreck. I mean, I've never, we went through rehearsals and whatnot, but it was in my eyes, it was just perfect. And I couldn't believe it. It was a dream come true, really, at that time. And so I guess then, as far as deciding that I wanted to dedicate my life to music and being a conductor, well, skip ahead now. We're in, my university years. I'm playing in university orchestra and also eventually playing in professionally in local orchestras, later on. But I was amazed at what I was seeing on the podium. This person on a box that could somehow find a way to collaborate with musicians, incredible musicians. Each instrument is a different sound, right? Putting them all together and developing this cohesive musical experience that goes through the conductor out to the audience, it's a real out-of-body experience. And I really wanted to be a part of that. I would see concerts as much as I can. And, San Francisco Symphony, of course, but also visiting orchestras from, across the pond. And I was just amazed at what this person could do with this collaboration with the musicians and producing this amazing work for audiences. But then I guess the moment I remember this specifically, Todd, the moment that I decided that I wanted to become a conductor was when I hit a crossroads in my life. I also have a degree in neurobiology, and I took the MCATs and I had the interviews at universities. I was all ready to go, but it came to a point where I started thinking about this with, of course, the support of my parents. That we as human beings, what is it that makes us happiest, right? And that I think is when we serve people. I think that's the purpose of why we're on this earth, really. I mean, every human is on this earth for a specific reason, right? And so I realized that I loved music so much that I wanted to share it with as many people as I possibly could. And as a conductor, I have to just add this because it helped again realize why it gave me the realization of wanting to be a conductor. We as musicians are not here simply to just entertain. That's not our job. Our job as musicians really is to provide a service to the community, to a service to humanity, right? So when people come to our concerts, you have to understand that the world is a very difficult place. We know that sometimes, and it seems that it continues to get more and more difficult. But if we as musicians can take this opportunity to bring people into the hall and just provide them a little bit of relief for a couple hours, it not only makes them happy, but it's a healing experience, right? And then when they leave the hall, they're humming the tunes, they're humming the melodies, they're going home and they're remembering this incredible experience they had. Well, it becomes an addiction, right? And it makes them want to continue to come back and come back and come back. And if that happens, then we as musicians have done our job. So again, I love music so much, and so I knew that this is what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I turned down the interviews, and then I never looked back. I turned down the med school interviews, so
Yeah.
then I never looked
Well,
back.
you said a minute ago that you did this, I think you said with the support of your parents, which
Yes.
feels remarkable
Yeah.
to see their son choosing a career in music over a career in medicine.
Right.
But
Right.
that that's great. I'm glad to hear that.
And it was really their support that helped me because it took a lot of thinking, really. I mean, my whole life was thinking about going to med school, but it's just thanks to them, they said you have to do what you love, and then the rest is history.